I know a lot of the questions tonight might be very app specific, like is TikTok safe for my kid? Is Roadblock safe for my kid? And I can give you a quick answer to all those questions. Simply, I don't know. Somebody might have very specific knowledge of one particular app, but there's no across the board handbook, rule book, manual for operating all these apps safely. The first line of defense is to have an app where your kid can't communicate with other strangers. So basically, these are all off the map then, right? Social media, communicating. This doesn't include gaming. If your kid sits on Xbox and talks over a microphone to his buddies in another city or another neighborhood, talking while they play Metal Gear Solid or whatever it is nowadays. So I cannot really attest to how safe TikTok is. I can't tell you how you would navigate Snapchat safely. What we can do is refer you to some resources online where there are instruction manuals. Say something bad does happen and somebody's images that are illegal get onto that website, we can refer you to some resources with Snapchat or with Kik or with Discord that can guide you through taking those images down. Not 100% effective, but it's a way to mitigate the worst case scenario.
At the least, most applications have a setting to change the account to a private account, right? So you are in complete control of who you accept as a friend, who can see what information is on the account. When you sign up for these accounts, their setting is based at an open profile. So you have to actually change it yourself. So if we allow our students to get Snapchat, for instance, they agree to the user agreement, that account is going to be it's going to be public. So if I know their first name, I could start searching there. B, on Snapchat, there's what's called the Snap Map, right? It's a heat signature map of all the active stories that are publicly posted. So if I am hopping on the United States Snap Map and I go into a heat zone in Chicago, Illinois, I can see whatever public account recently posted what's called a story. One of the privacy settings on Snapchat is called ghost mode. It's like making your account private so you're not identifiable via your location. So the point of all that, of what I'm telling you, is that each app has specific settings, and it's a matter of playing with the app and seeing what you can actually do to lock down an account. Otherwise, when you sign up, it is relatively open. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to what's going on in like Congress with TikTok. That's not a United States-owned company. So if there's public information on there, it's probably getting sold all over, right? Hence why we get calls from out of the country. Our phone numbers are out there. So it's not that any of these apps aren't safe. Each app has different standards for their safety. And a lot of apps like Instagram and Facebook are starting to implement, proving that you are 18 years old and not just lying about your age so that you can have an adult account, if you will. So like Detective Archkowski said, if we were to spend months researching and studying every app, we'd probably be here for a week straight talking about every single one and all the intricacies of it. So it is a matter of going home and doing a little bit of homework or just being interactive with your student and say, hey, show me TikTok, and then use that as kind of like a learning lesson for both of you and how to teach them to make it a little bit safer for themselves.
Yeah, for instance, if I may interject one more thing before we move on. Snapchat, one example of safety feature is that Snapchat now, when you log on or create an account, it is by default, location services are turned off.
All right.
If your child starts a Snapchat account, location services by default should be turned off. It would be incumbent upon you or your child then to go and turn them on so everybody who is a friend with that person, your kid or you on Snapchat, can see your location. And that's one thing I learned from sitting through an hour-long Snapchat symposium virtually. There were other things and tricks, but again, it takes a lot of time to learn every app and its safety features.
They're basing it on the age at sign up. So like you said, you know, if they're under the age of 18, those settings will be turned off now. That's kind of late for implement. They should have implemented that right away, if you ask me. But now that the pressure is being put on these social media sites, they're starting to implement safety features up front versus forcing us to learn it. This is one of our local cases out of Kingsford, Michigan. This picture was used to create a fake Snapchat account. And I can't tell you if that is a real individual. To me, that looks real. Kind of going through the photo and comparing it, it could very well be CGI or AI generated. But in fact, if you go on Google, that picture's on like the 3rd page of searching for good-looking 15-year-old high school boy. And so when we talk to the students, we reference this, not in any sort of graphic detail, obviously, but we do ask them, hey, if you woke up to a friend request from this individual, this was their profile, how many of you, without hesitation, would just accept the friend request? A couple hands go up. Of course, they're giggling because maybe they do find them attractive or they don't. Some, and then we ask, you know, how many of you would do your own research on the individual to verify if they're real or not? Good show of hands usually comes up with that, and then the rest will just say, I don't know them, I won't add them. So we try to get a gauge of like how many people are just apt to accept everyone, because the name of the game back when I was in high school was how many friends do you have? Like you weren't popular if you didn't have a lot of friends on social media. That's different today, and obviously will be, you know, as students grow older. But turns out the individual was this man, Jeffrey McGilvery. He was using that account to target 15-year-old girls and solicit them through Snapchat. So back how I was talking about that Snap Map, that's what he was using to target. If a female had a story on Snap Map, he would befriend them, say, hey, I'm this 15-year-old good-looking dude. Let's exchange photos, if you will, and then he would groom and try to gift payment through like gift cards for more. So we had the luxury of, you know, getting a warrant for his house, kicking in his door, taking all this stuff, and interviewing him. He didn't plead the fifth, and he thought he could probably lie his way out of it. I don't know why he wanted to talk to us, but we asked if they will, and he did. And obviously we know the name of the game for him, but we said, you know, what's the deal here? What's the game with this 15-year-old looking and profile picture? He said, well, how am I going to get a 15-year-old girl to talk to me? So of course that sends chills down your spine because that's pretty gross, right? He actually is married and has adult children of his own already through school. So, and they had no idea he was doing this. So that's not to scare you guys, but it's to say that when we talk to the students, it can be anyone, and that's why if you really don't know someone, you probably shouldn't be friends with them in general. I know back in the day it was easier said than done, but now, like as we get into this, we'll talk about peer pressure and how easy it is to create an account to basically mirror the things you like on your social media, right? So when you see my social media as I'm befriending you, you're like, wow, they like the same things. There's already like a connection on that level, and it's easier to start talking to, you know, potential targets, if you will. So he's arrested. He's got like 6 or 8 more years left in prison, but.
That's one of the things we talk to the kids is about making sure you actually know the person that you're befriending when you meet them online. And we warn them that there are people that try to trick you, and we don't get into the details of it, but we're trying to prevent people from adding predators online because it's so easy to convince kids to do stuff.
Right.
Part of the task force that we're part of, Colin and I, is that we utilize National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They're kind of the clearinghouse for all the ICAC units across the nation. When ICAC gets cases from the general public, we report those through NCMEC to help identify children in illegal images that haven't been identified yet. On the other hand, if Snapchat moderators identify an illegal image on their servers, or Google or Discord for that matter, they send tips to NCMEC, and that clearinghouse kicks out those tips to each state's police or investigative services, and it filters down to municipalities and counties from there. It filters down to ICAC task forces from there. So they're a big player in getting tips or helping process evidence for us, helping us generate identities for kids and images that we don't know who they are or what country they're living in. They've been around for 27 years. There's about 61 ICAC task forces across our nation and in several other countries. It includes affiliates and people at the state level from 5,000 other agencies. There's 675,000 police that are trained. And to date, 2024 anyway, there were about 89,000 people that were arrested due to NCMEC and ICAC doing these investigations.
So the moral of that is there's a lot of bad people out there scrolling the internet trying to trick kids into sending naked pictures and exploiting other people.
And we'll get into that topic right after this. So that graphic is from NCMEC up on the left, and it's dated. But the reason why we keep it present is that from 2019 to 2021, with COVID right in the middle of it, our cyber tip numbers almost doubled. Went from 16 million to 30 million, basically. Today we're hovering at, for 2023, we're just over like 46 million. Now, does that mean every single one of those tips is something very egregious and potentially dangerous? No. Some of it is instances where a parent felt concerned and they reported, and now it's follow-up and maybe mitigation, talking to a student or students if something was exposed online and it didn't necessarily go to someone that we would look at to be arresting. So as small as each of these teams are, we rely on our local municipalities to help out, do a little bit of footwork as we build these cases because they are very intricate on the internet. Stats that we had, one of our partners who's not here obviously tonight, he got some training, and he learned that for every 100 people under the age of 18, about 90 of them are guaranteed to be asked for an inappropriate photo of themselves, whether it's by someone they know or a complete stranger. So at some point in their life, whether they're 5, 6, 7, as soon as they have access to the internet, it is more likely that upwards of 90% are going to be asked for an inappropriate image. The next step there is that 60%, and I'd argue today slightly above 60%, are likely to take that image, whether they were coerced to do it or they felt comfortable enough or trustworthy enough with the individual to share that photo. And then out of that 30%, I'd say that's even higher now. If the image is taken, it'll either likely be saved by the individual who took it or the individual they send it to. And from there, obviously, it can spread like wildfire, or like that individual we arrested, they're out scouring the internet trying to find those images and collect for themselves to make money or to share their deviant satisfaction.
So it brings us to the topic of sextortion. Some of you in the room may be familiar with what sextortion is, some may not be, but it's basically just being extorted for your kids' illegal images, nude photos. This is where a lot of our kids will be playing Roblox or Minecraft or whatever, and if there's a chat feature, they might be talking to a stranger, and the stranger will lure them off of that safe Roblox or that safe Minecraft onto something like Telegram or some place where the chats and the communication can be encrypted. That means hidden from police and our search warrants, kinda, and hidden from parents. You can read the definition if you can see it. That's basically it, though. But some characteristics of sextortion include they gave an image to somebody they thought was trustworthy. They knew it wasn't right to begin with, but somebody gained their trust, and that's why that breach happened. It's usually an individual met online. The suspect got that image through lying, deceit, or even coercion. And pretty much all the time, the suspect is communicating from a fake account. It's dressed up like that 15-year-old boy to be appealing to kids that age.
So I talked to a 14-year-old today who this happened to him. So this is happening constantly to teenage boys. So they're online and they get a hey, what's up? Or a hi, how are you? Or, something to that nature. And they go, oh, hey, what's up? And a picture of a young girl will come over and they'll say something like, oh, I'm moving up to the area. I'd just like to get to know you a little, or you're cute, or I'm thinking about going to Northern or something like that to get them talking. And they start talking and they say, hey, here's a naked picture of me, why don't you share one of you? Meanwhile, they've already taken a picture of that kid's face because they're looking at their camera while they're typing. So they have a picture of the kid's face. And then if they do send a nude, or if they take a nude off the internet and send it, they'll immediately take that face picture, take that nude picture and say, if you don't send me money, I'm gonna release this picture to everybody in your social media circle. And so then the kids get terrified and they go, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so this happens all the time. Like, I talked to a kid last week, the same thing happened to him too. So teenage boys are the ones who are very, very susceptible to sextortion because you're getting a picture of a naked girl on the other end. And it's like, wow, I didn't even ask for this. This must be Christmas. It's my lucky day that this beautiful girl is gonna share a nude picture with me and all I gotta do is send one back. Wow, greatest day ever. And then next thing you know, they're on Messenger with some guy from, you know, another country who's telling them, you need to send me money or I'm showing this picture to everybody. You're gonna be embarrassed, you're gonna lose your job, you're gonna get kicked out of school. All these horrible things will happen to you if you don't give me money right now. And they pressure them into doing it. So it happens constantly.
I had two in 2024, two separate cases, girls, middle school age, who sent rancid videos to people they thought they were in love with. At the age of 14, age of 11, they think they're in love. Yeah, I'll send you a video. They talk about, yeah, we'll have babies someday. That's a girl's mindset. And I'm sure, Colin, you do this full time. We get a break with like other police investigations, but Colin does this full time, so he's probably got his own sextortion cases that he's worked pretty direct
My
from the internet.
my first ever dealing with it was back in, it was pre-Jordan DeMay, so it was my first time seeing it. And it was a 17-year-old high school student in Kingsford, not related to that other investigation. And he got up to the point where he was convinced, you know, to send the photo. And in the moment, he actually went and told his parents, knowing the ramifications of it. But I'm glad he did because it turns out his mom used to work with my dad because she knew what I did. She reached out to my dad and then said, hey, Colin, this was going on. Can we help him out? I'm like, well, first things first, I need to go talk to the kid, let him know that obviously taking a photo of yourself, a nude photo that is technically illegal, but I'm not here to throw him in handcuffs and take him to jail. I want to know where it went. Because now we're behind the 8 ball with who has this and what are they going to do with it. And that threat acting account ended up being in Europe. So I took everything I could possibly get for information, ship it out to Interpol, and I don't know where it went from there. But my concern was reassuring him, like, hey, this is probably one of your biggest mistakes you'll make, but the fact that you learn from it and it's probably never gonna happen again, you actually can help others now if this happens, because we're seeing the trend, right? So now although it's bad that it happened to you, you're a voice for it. And that brings us, sidestep real quick to a documentary that was made kind of during COVID, released 2022, right around the time Jordan DeMay took his own life, and they offered to air the documentary up here for free, first public showing in light of that happening, just to help start spreading the awareness. So it is available for a couple bucks on either of those sites. It's age appropriate. I mean, 12 and up can watch it. There's nothing explicit in it. What they talk about, the testimony, it leads you to, as an adult, you can picture okay, I understand where that went, whereas a student wouldn't pick up on that and be like, oh, I'm grossed out and terrified. So it is very eye-opening because it talks about large cases, several different victims, and how different departments get involved and tie things together to one suspect. So great. It's an hour and a half. I really recommend, if you have downtime this weekend, watch it. And then that'll kind of help you give you some information as well.
Right.
So with sextortion, if you guys ever see or hear anybody talking about getting like, oh my gosh, I can't believe so-and-so sent a nude picture to, an adult, they're probably not a suspect. They're probably not doing it to be vulgar or be mean. They're probably victims themselves. They're probably being sextorted. So if you ever hear of anybody that sent a nude to an adult, a business, a school, if it's a kid that's doing it, odds are it's a sextortion, not the kid doing something wrong. So it's just, usually you just think, oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody would do that.
Regarding the video, we can stand up here and explain explain sextortion all day long, but the video spells it out pretty good.
Yeah.
It was worth it for me to watch it when I finally did. Anybody who knows me well will tell you I'm a pretty frugal person, and I shelled out the $7.99 to watch it on.
Yeah.
I
So,
could have spent that money on something different, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I wanted to watch the video.
So a quick breakdown of the Jordan and May case, right? This was a 6-hour window that this happened. This was a very shotgun style approach. And like Detective Dawson said, Jordan was approached online by a once real account. So the account was real, verifiable at one point. It got hacked, sold on the dark web or black market. These individuals purchased the account, so they didn't have to create anything. All the content was there. You could go on and be like, well, there's like 300 photos of the same person. Got to be legit. Jordan gets the, hey, how are you doing? The cordial conversation happens. Then the exchange of the photos, or rather the, hey, you go first, or whatever it was. And then the switch got flipped. The threat was made, like, hey, we have this photo of you. Everyone's going to see it. Your life's over unless you pay us up. And when he couldn't pay up, they pushed him to commit suicide. And that's ultimately what happened. We could spend, again, another week talking about psychology. I'm by all means not a psychology major, but I have the luxury of getting trainings, and as I interview people, both victim and offender, I start mapping and trying to get a grasp on what goes on in people's minds. I've always been kind of fascinated with that, and I can't even begin to explain what was going through Jordan's mind. That kind of pressure in that moment is something that none of us have ever experienced. So maybe he truly felt like his life was over. I don't know. I won't speculate, but I can imagine when the I gotcha hit, it was very, very burdensome, if you will. So 2 of these 3 individuals are sentenced in an American prison. They were from Nigeria. The third one got extradited. I don't know when his trial is. And these 3 are actually part of a very large, elaborate scheme. These individuals wake up on a daily basis with a table full of devices, phones, computers, and that's all they're doing is casting the net out to whoever bites. Then they reel them in. So most of the time when we see this, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, but cutting communication off at the knees typically pushes them to move on to their next target. Does that happen every time? No, but that's one of the first things we'll talk about as a reaction to this happening.
I did talk to John, I'm sorry, I just assume everybody in the room knows about this case. It was in the news. It happened here in Martin
Yeah.
Township. Everybody may know or have heard of John DeMay or Jordan DeMay at some point. So I assume everybody's familiar with this. I might be wrong. But I did talk to John, just so you know. I talked to John, I called him, I said, here's what we intend to do, John. And he said, I'm all for it. I want to get the word out. I don't want anybody else to experience what I experienced. On the same hand, he said, if you're going to talk to parents, talk to them and bring them actionable things that they can do if they or their kid gets sextorted. Give them actionable things they can do to prevent it. So as we chip away at our slideshow, we're going to get into that. One more slide about just some statistics. Some of the common platforms up here on the right that we're seeing. The most common were at one point Facebook, but that's going away now. We adults play with Facebook more, and the kids are looking to do something that we're not involved in, right? Facebook's kind of going down. Snapchat is popular with the kids, from what I'm told. Discord and TikTok are pretty popular. But regardless, they all have one thing in common, or a couple things in common. You can use these to send pictures and videos of yourself. You can chat. That'll always be a standard communication. In the event that there are images that make their way online that you don't want to see out there, it is possible to get them taken down. NCMEC has also been responsible for, in the past couple of years, they've sent 75,000 plus notices to these social media apps, letting those social media apps know you have a client, somebody on your registry, put illegal images on your servers. So now Discord, now TikTok or Snapchat, it's up to you to go find those and take them off of there. So NCMEC is doing a lot of activity between investigators, between the online apps, and making a lot of work get done. If something were like to happen, on average, photos could be removed from the internet within about 27 hours, they say. These are NCMEC statistics. But in 27 hours, that problem could be mitigated. We never know how much really got taken down. You all know you can take a screenshot of a screenshot, and you'll have that picture on your phone forever if that's what you want to have. All they can do is erase it from the website. The damage that was done while that picture was on the website, we can never mitigate because people can save those images themselves on their own computers, on their own hard drives, or on their own phones.
Those bottom statistics are talking specifically about the category of sextortion and enticement. Enticement can be in the form of grooming to like leave the state or travel. So that's what those numbers are representing versus, like I had talked about before, overall 46 million tips of different sorts of information. Because some of the time it's online predators that use something like Discord to simply trade. It's like trading cards, and that's a sick thought, but that's what they do, and that's how they get reported. So this category specifically of the enticement sextortion is what you're seeing, those numbers are reflecting as that increases.
I apologize if you can't read the statistics. The center one is pretty telling because between 2021 and 23, online enticement reports went up 300%, tripled in those 2 years, between those 2 years, tripled. So if you're wondering, if you have a friend or your kid or maybe you yourself would notice these characteristics in yourself, somebody's probably being sextorted if a lot of these instances line up. Like if somebody starts receiving gifts in the mail, like webcams, gift cards to pay for different online services, if your child is approached and some stranger's talking to your child about their interests, how it's going in school, and the stranger's communicating with them, that's a pretty telltale sign that there's something weird going on. When you start getting into your child being overtly, more than normally upset when they can't get online, it could be because they're trying to satisfy this pull or this sextortion, and they need to get on there and do something to prevent the suspect from kicking out those photos to all the friends and family that the suspect got from that kid's friends list.
And with that, the manipulation tactic or the coercion just creates this embedded need to be like, if I don't get on and do what they say, my family's in trouble or I'm in trouble. And it's really hard for us as adults to be like, well, where's the common sense kick in? Well, our kids aren't fully mentally developed till age 25, right? So these threat actors are very good at playing on emotional manipulation and getting them to think like you need to be in constant communication or you need to meet online at this time and be able to do exactly what I say or else. And it's the or else factor that keeps that, like you said, that overt want to be like, I need to get online now, and if I can't, I'm upset.
Watch and keep an eye.
Yeah.
Sometimes the suspects move slow, they take their time, they gain your kid's trust. Maybe your kid is more resistant and smarter than the rest, and it takes a lot to gain your child's trust. I guess that's a benefit. Other suspects, they get the trust right away, and they move quickly within hours, like in the Jordan LeMay case. And this all happens in one evening. Could happen after they go to bed, could happen from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m., where your child might be trying to get money. If your child has a source for money and send it to somebody in a different country. Yeah. That's a worst case scenario.
And the abruptness really depends on the threat actor's goal. In Jordan LeMay's situation, it was they wanted money. As many people as we can get to pay money, that's how we're making our living. Whereas if someone's being enticed over time, over a longer grooming period, that may be for a darker gratification for that individual or the ultimate want to get that child to leave the home, right, or disappear. And that's obvious. That's a scarier end of that spectrum. But if it's an abrupt, an acute type situation, that maybe the tactic there is they want something up front to then create that blackmail versus a long-term goal.
And again, parents, to the extent that you can, if you know your child has a phone, your child has certain apps on that phone, if you start seeing apps that don't belong, apps that you didn't get permission for, apps that you don't recognize. It may be that somebody told your kid, download this app. We can talk off of roadblocks. We can chat here. Or we can have a private conversation here. We can do video call with this app, so download it. If you start seeing things on the phone that don't belong, I would ask your child, what's up with this?
It's one thing to have, you know, your group of friends from school that you get online with and game with on the weekends. There's some of the people you game with online, maybe from other schools or other states, and you just consistently play with them on that platform, and that's all it is. It's when one of those unknown individuals that maybe your only extent of your relationship is playing the game, it's when one of them asks to leave the game, the mutual setting, to then go private and talk in private. And what we try to express to the students is you should ask yourself, why do they want me to go to a different platform? Is it truly to get to know me better? I mean, if you really want to get to know someone, you can just ask them, like we're talking here. I mean, if someone doesn't want to share information, they shouldn't feel like they have to. So that's one of the points we try to get across.
Again, a couple statistics from the NCMEC website here, but the main way that sextortion happens is threatening to post previously acquired mildly erotic images. 67% of the time, that's a method that's used. But there's other methods. Reciprocation, maybe people that just met each other and are chatting online. Oh, you show me yours and I'll show you mine. Of course, gaining the trust, making a friend, getting romantic with somebody can lead into exchanging nude photos. If somebody is pretending to be younger than they really are, person is pretending to be the opposite gender, these are all ways to entice a child to do things he or she wouldn't do otherwise.
We've had suspects, one of our suspects took over or hacked, if you will, his ex-girlfriend's account. And so he would befriend a target, then the target would be befriended by the ex-girlfriend, which is acting like his current girlfriend, and that account would be used to entice a female target, right? Because it's female-female communication versus male to female. Different tactic. That guy's sitting in prison too for a long time. But it is scary to think about the lengths they'll go to and how smart they are with these tactics. And unfortunately, because of the internet, these kind of playbooks, if you will, or scripts, are floating around out there, and those secret communities that we all wish we could exploit ourselves and put away for life. And it's scary how easy it is. It's like a telemarketer or an online salesman on the phone. You know, how to respond to an objection, things like that. How to turn, what's going on inside the household into a, well, I'll be better than what your parents are, or just turning the target against everyone they know and love, getting them distracted from that mindset.
What if your kid had a webcam on his or her laptop and it was recording without yours or anybody else's knowledge? If you click on the wrong link in a computer, or click on the wrong link in an email, sometimes those are called Trojan horses. It allows the offender to get inside your computer, activate your webcam without you knowing. So whatever you do in front of your webcam, you can presumably see some things that shouldn't be seen. That's why, it might be paranoid or might be a conspiracy guy or whatever, but I always put a piece of tape over that webcam.
Yeah, until you're actually going to use it. And then the other thing we try to say is, if someone ever wants to video chat and their video actually doesn't work, that's because they simply want to get you on the other end, right? So that should be like a red flag. And that's what we express to the students as well. It's like, okay, it's one thing to video chat with someone, but if they're having technical difficulties, that's likely a lie, right? It makes no sense. You might as well just call on the phone then and talk if the video is not working. So we do our best to keep it simple, but simple things like like I said before, making the accounts private is a huge step.
Why would somebody do this? What's wrong with people that they would do this? The motivation, like 95% of the time, perverts seek to acquire more and more CSAM to trade with each other because it's not available like the adult pornography sites. It's a little bit more complicated and intricate to try and see nude kids online. It's not that easy. You don't normally just come across it by searching Wayfair.
Yeah, nope.
Okay, so these things are in short supply. These kinds of images are in short supply. Like Colin said, they're like trading cards. If you can manufacture your own CSAM and trade it for somebody else's CSAM, that's the community, that's how they're operating. And they're doing it over the internet.
CSAM stands for Child Sexually Abusive Material. That's the technical term. People online refer to it as child pornography. We don't like to use the word pornography because, as we know, adult pornography includes willing participants, whereas a child under the age of 18 cannot give consent. So they're therefore not willing participants, hence the crime, right? So that's when we refer to CSAM, that's what it is. But again, just to reemphasize, we go into the darker parts of the internet to bring these people into the light, but ultimately that is their goal. And as sick as it is, it's happening more than you think. And again, that's not to scare anyone hiding or stripping phones away from students, but the more we can all talk about it and get out and kind of in front of it, the more we're aware, the more we can catch it and get ahead of it, because unfortunately we're all behind the 8 ball on it.
Small amount of the time, people are actually trying to groom a child away from the home, away from their parents, or jump on a train or a plane or something, and have sex with a child. That's a very small amount of the time. So if we're talking about actionable things, in the worst case scenario, things that you can do to mitigate this problem that just now fell on your plate, maybe your child has come to you and said, all right, I put my nudes online, somebody wants $200, or they're gonna show it to all my friends list, and they're gonna send it to all my parents and people in my family list. These are the things that can be done if it happens. A lot of it comes down to the psychology of the child. You don't wanna scare them. In fact, to be proactive, you could go to your child and say, hey, I just came from online safety, and I just want you to know, if you ever make a mistake or go online or accidentally show somebody your nude body when you shouldn't have, I'm not gonna be mad at you. I'm gonna not yell at you. We can deal with it. I think kids are naturally embarrassed and scared of what can happen if this happens. But you going home and setting the tone, just in case it does happen, is probably the biggest piece of prevention in here. You might have a child that's not to that maturity level yet, or you might have a child that you don't want to give these bad ideas to yet, and that's your call as parents. But this is probably the biggest thing that you can do to prevent what happened to John DeMay and his family. If in fact something like that does happen, and you become aware of it, and your child wants to just comply, let's just do what they say so that they don't send my nude photo all over the school. Before you decide to do that, just know that if you send them money, they're probably gonna tug you along and keep playing that game and get you for more money. It doesn't end. I've seen a lot of these, and they don't stop with just one photo. They'll want more, they'll ask for more, they'll keep trying to recontact. If you block the offender, they'll find different, they'll make different profiles that aren't blocked to get at you or your kid. So before you cooperate, before you send money on Venmo, consider just not doing it. This is where we get into every account having its own instructions on how to notify that service that something bad has happened, and it's illegal images on their servers. The Discords, the TikToks, the Snapchats, and Facebooks, and Instagrams. Those American companies that we're familiar with, they have to comply with a lot of U.S. laws, so they have these features. I can't speak as to what happens in Singapore, China, Malaysia, but I know that these American companies, they have to do some very minimum degree of protecting us from, CSAM like we mentioned. They have to comply somewhat when we, the police, send them search warrants. They have to give data if they have it. American companies, we have some faith that they will do those things for us. So if something happens on Snapchat, I would seek out their information pages or their help page so you can read up and see where to go with the next steps. This is important for investigation. If something like this happens, like, again, Colin mentioned before, cut the communication off at the knees. Decide not to play their game anymore. Decide not to send them any money, and block them. That being said, don't delete any chats, any communications that you might have with that person. Don't end your own account. Because we're hoping that you're gonna call the police at some point. And we, the police, need some place to start. We need a username of the offender. We need an email for the offender. There's little digital breadcrumbs in that online profile that we can use to figure out who's responsible at the end of the day. But if a profile gets deleted, we have to kind of work it backwards. We'll have to then find out your account name or your username. And we'll probably have to try and search warrant Facebook for your information, because that's where we're gonna have to start if we don't know who the offender's username or email was, okay? So we wanna leave the profile alone, but still cut the communication off at the knees. If something like this happens, NCMEC can help you. NCMEC will get involved in helping a juvenile get those images off of that service. And we could refer you to a website here later on shortly. If you're an adult and this happens, like I might have mentioned earlier before we started the show about a lot of adults, this happens to them too. Our age in this room, 60-year-olds, dare I say 70-year-olds, have fallen victim to this. If those images get online and they're on Snapchat and they're not illegal, technically, NCMEC probably won't help the adults in the room get those images off. If you're a juvenile, they will. If you're an adult and you want to get those images off, there is a web page on NCMEC's website, and there is a list of instructions for every icon: Discord, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, Google, Instagram, Tumblr, Imager, and the rest of them. There is an instruction manual on how to address images online that you don't intend to be there. But back to the juveniles. If there's a juvenile illegal image on one of these websites, there is a web page on NCMEC that I would refer you to contact them and go through the instructions on how to get that image taken down.
The one thing with that, as much as you as a parent, if you see that on your child's phone, then your immediate reaction would be like, get that crap off your phone. In order for NCMEC to do what they need to do, they need that original photo. So it sounds counterintuitive, but what they then do is there's what's called a hash value to a photo or a video, and that's all that is a digital fingerprint for that specific photo or video. They need that information, so when they reach out to all these social media platforms, they say, based on this information, you shall go out, take it down, block it, and any account that has it, either remove it from their account or deactivate their accounts, whatever is necessary to then remove the content. Does that make it 100% guarantee? No. Detective Sergeant Archikoski mentioned before too, if I'm a creep and I get this photo, all I have to do is take a screenshot, maybe resize the photo, and now I have an identical photo, but it's got a whole new ID to it, right? And I can use that for whatever. So unfortunately, it's not a guarantee, but this is the first we've ever came, or rather the internet's ever came to being able to reach out and grab and pull things away from exposure. So it's a new tool, so they're gonna learn a lot as people start using it. And unfortunately, there's a need for it, right?
The last thing to do, if you haven't already done, is call the police. We're limited in what we can do, yes. I'll admit that. I, with Market City Police, can't go and arrest somebody in Nigeria and bring them back here for trial. We just don't have the budget for that. But we work with other ICAC units that do. This is not a rare occasion, though. We're not talking like federal agents and Interpol is just sitting around waiting for something to come in the door so that they can go investigate it. There's probably hundreds of thousands of cases like this. And things get prioritized based on egregiousness and need. We can probably all agree that the Jordan to May thing was a pretty substantial egregious act. And so our federal partners were very anxious to go and take care of the problem. And it did involve federal agencies. It did involve cooperation with other nations' police. And they feared going into the jungle and basically, I think, raiding a village. With however many armed people, from what I want to take away from this. So it's not a small feat. What we can do, what the police can do, is get a place to start. Sometimes the suspects are actually in the United States. And if they are, it's easier for me to work with somebody down in the south than somebody over in some other country. I can work with somebody, I can work with another police agency in West Virginia or Minnesota, another officer who understands what it's like to be a cop in America and who speaks pretty clear English. I can work with those officers. We can send people to offenders when we identify their IP addresses and when we take other investigative means to pick up their digital breadcrumbs and figure out where they're at. We can do those interviews. We can submit to the prosecutor's office and try to get that person an arrest warrant. The way the process runs, we have to go and pick that person up from wherever they're at and bring them back here, much like what became of Jordan DeMay's offenders here, just stateside. So when you come to the police, we're gonna do our due diligence. We're gonna do everything that we can in our power. But you might see more getting done if there's a very egregious act. I may hit a roadblock and not be able to go any further with the resources I'm able to conjure up. Fair statement. But still report it. Come to us. If you're not inside the city of Marquette, go to your local agency. We'll try. We'll work with Michigan State Police to make it happen the best we can.
The biggest thing on our end too is to hopefully prevent another tragedy, right? So I go out of my way. I live in Escanaba, Michigan still. So if I go out of my way to meet at a house and just simply talk to the victim, and be like, look, I know I'm scary. I'm law enforcement. I have a gun and badge, but you need to know that like this was a mistake. But you're not in trouble with me. I mean, you may have to deal with your parents after we talk, but just know that like the embarrassing part's over, right? And it's a good thing that you spoke, right? Because we don't want that kind of burden just festering in someone's mind if they are too reluctant to say anything at all. So at the end of the day, that's our arguably bigger concern is the mental well-being of the individual that's being victimized.
It's helpful when I'm talking to kids to let them know that they're not the only ones.
Right.
And everybody's heard of Jordy's story, so that's actually helpful when I talk to teens in our community and say, hey, you know what happened to Jordy? This has happened to you. And they're like, yeah, it is. And I think people are more willing to tell their parents about it because of that happening. So something that came out of that tragedy is that everyone talked about it. Everybody knows about it. It got so much attention that it's something that everybody around here can talk about more openly now than they would have been able to before, I feel like. So letting kids know that this is literally a daily occurrence, that people are getting sextorted, threatened, and you're not alone, and this happens to just about everybody. So as long as somebody's got a cell phone connected to the internet, you're gonna get blackmailed, scammed, or sextorted at some point.
This prevention piece, again, John wanted me to give some kind of actionable things that you can relate to and things you can do in your own everyday lives to avoid having this happen. I start with monitoring your child's online activity. Simply spy on them. Easy for me to say, you guys are your kids' parents. I'll spy on my kids all day long, they won't even know it.
You're the one paying for that device anyway. When you
Right.
hand that device to a kid, you can tell them, I'm paying for this, this is mine. When you're an adult and you have your own, you can do what you please. But for now, you're gonna show me this phone and we're gonna talk about this regularly.